One.
Welcome everybody. Good to be with you today. I have heartbreaking news, and then I have delightful news to offset. So, heartbreaking news. This is our last day discussing Plato like this. I see the look, the tears. Smelly, you gonna be okay? She says no, she doesn't think she's ever going to be okay again. But there is delightful news. It's only ever kind of the last day discussing Plato, because you can never really escape Plato. Plato's still with us in some of the ways you might expect the least. So, do you remember, oh my goodness, I'm getting old, so you were young at this time. Do you remember when there was this picture went around the internet of a dress?
Yes.
And yes, so what was okay, Audrey Smellies, come here. Audrey Smellies, ladies and gentlemen. Audrey Smellies, what was the big controversy over this dress? Black and blue or white and gold? Have any of you seen the picture? No, I should have just put it on the picture. Everyone, you seen the picture? Okay. Yeah, so do you know what we're talking about, Odette? I'll have to pull it up later. Odette's the only one. All right, so you got this dress, and some people who look at it see it's white and gold. Some people look at it see it's blue and black, which don't sound like really very similar colors. And people, they took it seriously, didn't they? Did you remember what colors you saw?
Yeah.
Follow-up question. What colors did you see? Black. See, I saw white and gold. Yeah.
Did you actually?
Not like a bright, vibrant, blinding white and gold, but I was a white and gold person. And when I said that, did you hear the sounds people made? So some of you really think I'm wrong, right?
Yes.
Who really thinks I'm wrong? Yeah. And who thinks I'm right? Okay. So all of you who just put your hands up are thinking like Plato. Thank you, Augustine. See, for me to be either right or wrong, I see white. If you think, yes, he's right, or if you think, no, he's wrong, either way, you think that there is something that it is to be white, that there is an ideal whiteness. And we look at things and their colors either do or they don't participate in the ideal form of whiteness. If you're like, well, it's all on the spectrum and people's eyes different, and who's to say what's white for you, maybe purple for, okay, that's a different way to look at it, and then you happen not to be thinking like Plato on that particular topic. But if the argument makes sense, the argument doesn't make sense in a non-Platonic world. It's a Platonic argument. Plato's still with us in some ways that are more serious. Right? So, what does it mean for something to actually be white? We used to ask that question. We meant something very different about it. We used to, and some people do still think like this, but questions like, who really counts as part of our society? Today we don't ask it in terms of color so much. We ask it in terms of where people were born and what documents they do or don't have. What is Americanness? Who belongs here and who doesn't? Well, to engage in that argument in any direction, by the way, if the response is only these people, or the response is everybody. If they have a passionate response to what Americanness is, well, that's to argue that there is something which it means to be American. There's an ideal form of Americanness. And some folks participate in that form, and whoever's making the argument is going to say, it always turns out to be folks just like them that participate. And it's always folks just like them that don't participate. Is that Plato's fault? Arguments over immigration and stuff like that today, is that Plato's fault? No. But that's sort of, we call it essentialist thinking. That's Plato. We get Plato's handprints are all over passionate arguments today about topics that the specific topics wouldn't have meant much of anything to be Plato, or in Plato's time. So if you listen to arguments over controversial takes on gender issues, and we'll look at those issues themselves in the second part of the course, in the ethics part of the course, particularly if you choose to look at the ethics of gender and sexuality in your roundtable. But for now, the arguments over what does it mean to be a man, what does it mean to be a woman? So somebody who wants to take a much more traditional view and say, all right, you're a man if you have a body that is designed in this particular way. And you're a woman if you have a body that's designed in this particular way. And those are the two ways. That's a Platonic argument, that there is an ideal form of maleness and an ideal form of femaleness, and one either does or does not participate in that form. But if one is arguing passionately from the other direction, somebody is transgender, or has transgender friends, or is just passionate about the issue, right? And so wants to respond to the people making the traditional argument and say, no, trans women are women. When you say that you have to have certain certain equipment on your body to be a woman and certain to be a man, you're wrong. Being a man or being a woman means something else, and these folks are that something else. That's still an essentialist argument. It's still a Platonic argument. It's just saying that there is something which it means to be a woman, and the traditional view has just misdefined it. There is something which it means to be a man, and the traditional view has just misdefined it. Both sides, if you're taking a passionate position, hardcore one way or the other, it's a very Platonic argument, even though Plato would have had, wait, what are you guys arguing about? The topic itself wouldn't have meant anything to Plato. But the approach that both sides take means something to Plato, or is straight out of Plato's textbook. It's an essentialist argument. There is an ideal form of what it means to be this, male, female, and you either do or you don't match that form. Plato's still with us in his, of course, those are arguments about clothing and arguments about physical bodies. We know neither of those are that important to Plato. That for Plato, the real me is the soul. The real me is not the physical body. That's still with us. That's still with us in any approach to religion or spirituality that elevates whatever we believe is coming next as more important than what we know is here now. And I'm not saying any of this is good or bad. I'm just saying it's here with us, and it's been here with us a long time, because you're never going to get rid of this guy. But surprisingly, back to the controversies over gender, Plato's still with us another way there. Because when you have a transgendered individual, unless the response to that is 100% they're just wrong about themselves, that there's no reality to it. Any other response to that recognizes that in that person's experience of who he or she is, or who he or she believe themselves to be, if any sort of compassion-driven response that recognizes there is something possibly real about the experience of the true self not matching the flesh, that's Plato. That's Plato all over it. And it also, any approach to trying to understand what is actually happening when someone is transgender, any approach other than just straightforward, they're wrong 100%. Any approach other than that, unavoidably, whatever the answer turns out to be, it's not, hey, I'm just a guy, how would I know? I have my own thoughts, and you can ask me after you graduate, because this course is not about the philosophy of Jeff Childers. But whatever the true answer ends up being, if it's anything other than they're 100% wrong, then they've put the conversation about the reality of the soul back on the table. Even though sometimes it seems like those most convinced of the reality of the soul tend to be the most vocal in opposition, life is complicated. Life is messy, right? And a Platonic vision of the soul is one way and possibly the only one to make any sense out of what those folk experience is, unless we're willing to say they're just deluded and wrong. So Plato's not going anywhere, right? Because if we ever come to an agreement on those issues, right? If we ever as a whole society agree on what we name, nothing controversial, immigration, gender, and most controversial of all, the color of that dress. But if we ever get a world that we're 100% agreement on those three topics, we'll find something else to argue over. Guess what? It's going to be Plato 9 times out of 10 that we're actually arguing over. I said this in one of the two periods. If it was you, I'm saying it to you again. If not, there was a 20th century philosopher, Alfred North Whitehead, and he said that all philosophy since Plato is just a series of footnotes on Plato. Plato has really set the conversation that we have as a civilization has really been set by Plato. And all anyone has done in the 2,400 years after him has been pull up a chair to Plato's table and respond to Plato's conversations. And just talking about him like this over a few days, we're just scratching the surface. Plato talks about a lot more than what we've talked about here. This is from Peter Kraft's Socrates' Children. This will be real quick. This is just a list of some of Plato's dialogues, right? Here's my copy of the complete Plato. The complete Plato. A very loud book. My English translation is 1,800 pages. Right? Here are some of the dialogues and what they're about. So here are the kinds of things Plato talks about. So we've got the Apology, which is a defense of Socrates. The Credo is about Socrates' refusal to disobey the law, even to save his life. The Phaedo is about death and immortality. The Charmides is about moderation and self-control. The Lysis is about friendship. The Laches is about courage. The Euthyphro is about religious piety and its relationship to reason. The Lesser Hippias is about whether it is better to do wrong intentionally or unintentionally. The Greater Hippias is about the relationship between goodness, pleasure, and beauty. The ion is about artistic inspiration. The gorgeous is about how to live, especially whether it is worse to do wrong or to suffer wrong. The protagoras is about whether all evil is due to ignorance. The meno is about learning, which Plato says is really remembering. The euthydemus is about the relation between thought and words. The cratylus is about the origin of and nature of language. The phaedrus is about love and beauty. The symposium is about love and beauty. The republic, justice. The thetas is about knowledge, transcending sense perception. The timaeus is about the making of the universe. The statesman is about surprise, the statesman. And the Critias is about the legend of Atlantis, which, guess where that comes from? Plato. Comes from Plato. So he's talking about all sorts of stuff that we don't have a chance to get into detail in a single semester course. It's supposed to cover the whole history of philosophy. But I want to look for a couple minutes at some of Plato's, as down to earth as Plato can get, right? Because we've been in other realities and other universes. Let's take a little look at what Plato has to say about life here. Because this world, according to Plato, this world isn't bad. It's not garbage, and it's not that it doesn't matter. Later Platonists will say that, some of them. Plato, no, this world isn't bad, it's just less good. Right? It's just less important. But it's still good and it still matters. So let's look at Sophie's World, page 91. We're picking up in the middle of the letter from Alberto to Sophie. The myth of the cave is found in Plato's dialogue, The Republic. In this dialogue, Plato also presents a picture of the ideal state, that is to say, an imaginary, ideal, or what we would call utopian state. Briefly, we could say that Plato believed the state should be governed by philosophers. There will be no end to the troubles of states, says Plato, or of humanity itself, till philosophers become kings in this world, or till those we now call kings and rulers really and truly become philosophers. And political power and philosophy thus come into the same hands. So Plato never ruled anybody, but he thinks rulers should be people just like Plato. He bases his explanation of this on the construction of the human body. According to Plato, the human body is composed in three parts: the head, the chest, the abdomen. Plato, you'll recall, is not interested in anything further south than that. Head, chest, abdomen. For each of these three parts, there's a corresponding faculty or power of the soul. Reason belongs to the head, will belongs to the chest, appetite to the abdomen. I get that one, I understand that one very deeply. Each of these soul faculties has an ideal or virtue. Reason aspires to wisdom. Will aspires to courage. An appetite must be curbed so that temperance or moderation can be exercised. Only when the three parts of the body function together as a unity do we get a harmonious or virtuous individual. At school, a child must first learn to curb its appetites. Then it must develop courage, and finally reason leads to wisdom. Plato now imagines a state built up exactly like a tripartite, the three-part human body. So, Plato thinks that the ideal state should be patterned on the ideal person. Because what is a state? It's a collection of people. So he thinks that the same powers that are operating in the individual, reason, will, appetite, are going to operate in the community, and therefore the state, the republic, should be a republic. That comes from a Latin translation of Plato's word, but the Latin literally just means the people's thing. The republic should be designed in a way that recognizes that three-part reality. Plato loves the number 3. Where the body has head, chest, and abdomen, the state has rulers, auxiliaries and laborers, farmers, for example. Here, Plato clearly uses Greek medical science as his model, just as a healthy and harmonious man exercises balance and temperance. So a virtuous state is characterized by everyone knowing their place in the overall picture. So, Plato advocates strong leadership and the necessity of strong leadership, because the common people, the laborers, that corresponds in Plato's mind to the appetite. In any individual, one of the first steps in growing in maturity, in intelligence, and in morality is to discipline our appetites. Right? We have to teach ourselves that we can't always have what we want when we want it. Right? And that starts as a little kid, and it's hard to do that to little kids. TJ desperately wants to go to sleep right now, but she's forcing, like, no, she has to deny her appetite. Audrey Smellies probably wants to play on her phone right now, probably wants to, but no, you don't want to. Audrey Smellies wants, like, Mr. Childers is so boring, and the people on TikTok have so many interesting things to say, but she's disciplining her appetite so that she can grow in maturity as a human being. Because the common folks, Plato, this is more than 2,000 years ago, and Plato would look at our notions of the relative value of people. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. It would be like, what? What are you talking about? No, they're not. Plato would say, what are you talking about? No, they're not. Obviously, no, they're not. And he wouldn't say that as a racist. The ancients weren't racist. They were all sorts of different things, but it was only modern people who were stupid enough to judge the value of people based on something as insignificant as their skin color. But Plato would definitely judge people based on their intellect and on their ability to rein in their appetites. And you'd say the common people don't have those abilities. Right? Plato doesn't hate people. Plato would say, therefore, for their own good, right, they need to be led with a strong hand. Right? Not a cruel hand, but the hand of a wiser person. Ideally, the hand of a philosopher. And if not the hand of a philosopher, then the hand of someone who is studied under the philosophers. But that person must have the authority to knock sense into people. So, does that sound pleasant? That sort of authoritarian leadership? Is Plato out of his mind to suggest that? Thought experiment. Sebastian, come join me. Come join me. How's it going, Sebastian?
That's pretty good.
Have you noticed in the past, it hasn't been so bad this school year, but the past 2 or 3 years before that, like a 1,000,000,000% increase in fights in the hall.
Yeah.
And fights aren't like two meathead guys arguing and pushing and it gets out of hand. Fights are like 4 against 1, premeditated, right? Yeah, rolling around each other on the floor in the hallway, pulling hair, hollering, teachers getting pushed out of the way, teachers getting hit. I don't know of any teachers that have been punched intentionally, but so and then the videos circulate on Instagram, right? And everybody watches those videos and they say, "Wow, they look smart," right?
Sure.
Yeah. No, nobody watches those videos and says, "Wow, they look smart." People watch those videos and say, "Wow, nobody's ever going to hire them for anything ever." Good thinking. So the folks that get in those fights, what do you think? What do you think it's like for them at home?
Probably, the parents probably don't like care about them, don't like look out for them. Or like, not like they don't care like at all, but like, they don't care.
Attention teachers and students, please pardon the interruption. Could I please have Annabelle Boriquez to the front office? Annabelle Boriquez, please come to the front office.
Say that again, Sebastian.
Yeah, so basically, I feel like the parents don't care about them like at all, or just don't care about them specifically.
Or at any rate, it seems like there's probably been some discipline at home missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Seems, and it may not be that, may only have one parent or something like that, or parents, lots of things happen. This here isn't to judge the parents, it's just to recognize a reality that folks who are fighting in the hallway, have probably never been made to control their impulses, or told no, maybe because nobody's watching. So what do you think the odds, I know we're like a minute over and I apologize, I'll make this part quick. What do you think the odds that the kind of folks that fight in the hallway will just themselves decide to start acting like civilized people?
I think it does happen, but I think it's very slim.
Is very slim. Instead, and it's not zero, you're right, it's not zero. Instead, folks who have no impulse control, especially when they are a threat to the safety of others, must be controlled. I'm not saying the whole state should be ruled like that. Plato is, and he's not crazy. Remember, you don't have to think he's right, but if you start thinking he's dumb or crazy, you're reading the wrong philosopher. We'll pick up after lunch. Thank you.